Welcome back, Inspirers, to another episode of Amputate to Elevate Success. This show cuts through the noise of leadership cliches and gets real about what we must let go of in order to grow. I'm your host, John Register, Army veteran, Paralympic silver medalist, and founder of Inspired Communications International. Now, years ago, I literally had to amputate my leg, but in that loss, I discovered a path to purpose. I discovered a path to performance and platform. This show exists to help executive leaders just like you do the same, not by ignoring the pain of change, but by walking through it with courage. This podcast is all a part of the Elevate Life Executive Series on Beehiiv, where we equip leaders in high-stakes transitions with tools to communicate with clarity and lead with conviction. If you're ready to elevate, you're in the right place. Now, before we dive in, take a moment to like, follow, and share this episode with someone navigating a leadership pivot. Your share could be the catalyst for someone else's breakthrough. Today's guest is Mark Griffin, co-founder of Purpose Fused, an organization on a mission to connect people and organizations to purpose that actually drives action. Mark brings global experience from executive leadership to brand transformation, and his perspective on purpose isn't fluff, it's functional. In this conversation, you'll hear what he had to amputate in order to elevate to his calling, and how he now guides companies to do the same. So get ready for a masterclass in courageous clarity. We'll get started right after this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have him here, the one, the only, the legendary Mark Griffin in the house. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing us with your presence today.
John, thanks so much for having me here. So even that few second intro is really inspirational, so I appreciate it, and thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. We met out in an event out in California, and I really loved getting a chance to meet you and know you better. What is one thing that you've had to amputate in order to elevate to your success?
Well, I hope you'll be impressed with the fact that not necessarily the answer, but the fact that you asked that back when we were back at the conference.
I did.
And I was thinking, and how long we got to answer this question. And of course, I came up with one word, which was ego. But I was like, I don't know really if that's right. So since then, I've been kind of thinking about it a little bit and thinking through different challenges I've had to overcome, and I've actually refined it a little bit. And there's a sense of ego that plays into it. But the answer is actually it's amputating obsession. And what I mean by that is my natural way of being, the way I'm just naturally wired and energized, is around possibilities and people. And so that's awesome when I see possibilities, right? And you may be the same. Like you see things positively, and you see possibilities, and you see opportunities and challenges, and that's great. And if I feel like I can convene people, engage people in those possibilities, bring it on, right? I'm going after it. And the passion comes out, and for the most part, that's really impactful, and it engages people, and it makes an impact, it makes a difference, etc. I think what I've learned through reflecting back on some of the challenges is there's a trigger point which I may not have always been aware of, which is, well, when does passion convert into obsession? And it's funny because the conversation I had with my last podcast guest, and she brought it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's me. and so, okay, so what's the difference and what's wrong with obsession? I think the thing for me is, if obsession is driven not so much by ego, because the ego I think is actually fine. Like ego is kind of like neutral, right? Ego is just sort of having some confidence, self-worth, and identity, and that's fine. When you start thinking of egoism and egotism, where it's sort of, oh, now it's a bit more about me than it is about doing the right thing, or even I'm trying to do something just to get the kind of attention and accolades, that's the stuff I've got to amputate, not other people. You can do what you like. But that's what I've learned, I think, through some of those challenges. So if obsession is driven through kind of egotism, that's not a good thing for you, for the people you're surrounding yourself with. And it's very different to following a passion to do the right thing for the right people.
Have you found a self-awareness strategy or trigger point or something that get you to understand when you might be dipping into egotism or one of the other isms that might go around that, and you're drifting more into self than you are onto others?
Yeah, I mean, this has all come up really recently. I think I've got a strategy around how I've bounced back or come back from those sort of challenges, which I learned obviously off the back end and have sort of refined and practiced, and it's actually part of how I coach. In terms of understanding the triggers, yeah, I think it's I think it comes down to self-awareness, right, and having an understanding when something is intrinsically true, authentic, and aligned to, I call them principles. People will say values. Principles to me are just values in action. So if you understand what your values are and you can articulate those, if it's aligned to your purpose, my purpose is creating opportunities that inspire people to go forward as the ultimate version themselves. Now, the risk of purpose is, wow, I can do that in lots of ways, and that could become obsessive. So then you've got to tap into your principles and say, okay, well, look, if these are your sort of 5 to 7 best self behaviors, to what extent is this motivation, whether it's passion or obsession, like where are you at? To what extent is this actually bringing out the best? Are you exhibiting these characteristics? And I would say that in those instances, there would have been other characteristics that I was exhibiting that would show up more often, even though maybe some of my best self characteristics were still present, but they were kind of getting sabotaged maybe, right, by some other things that were showing up. And I do think you're aware of that. You know when you're frustrated or angry or maybe even just being negative or saying something you would never usually say. That's not who you authentically are. That's who you've become because you've got into that sort of obsessive space. So I think it all comes back to self-awareness and an understanding of when are you at your best and to what extent are you aligned.
Yeah, that's good. I was, when you were sharing, I was trying to figure out or think when is it that I go into those moments, and it's usually when something comes up for me that makes me upset or angry, and I have to pause and say, well, why is this coming up for me in this way? And being self-aware that this is causing me angst, or this is causing me frustration. That's the time to lean in and say, okay, there's something going on with me that needs to be resolved. It's not in the other person. It's not what they're saying. It's something that's going on in me that is rising up. And so how then do I need to answer that question? Do you have any strategies around how you do that to when that comes up for you?
Yeah, because I think when we're talking about it kind of in the moment, which is what we are talking about now, and I think to the extent these things show up more regularly in the moment, it might be because in this instance, when we're talking about maybe the motivation's just got a little bit too obsessive, rather than being more this sort of pure intrinsic kind of passion to do the right thing. In the moment, it's having this awareness that you're being emotionally hijacked, or that there's potential to be emotionally hijacked, right? So that a lot of that just comes down to that, even that physical awareness of like, well, how do you feel when that happens, right? Does your gut tighten up? Does your heart rate go up? Do your shoulders tense? Like whatever it is, and it'll be slightly different for different people. But even just being aware of that, and you're like, oh, hang on. And then everyone has to kind of do what works for them, right? But the key really is to be able to separate from the emotionally hijacking trigger that wants you to act, say, do in this particular way, and separate. And for some people, this could be literally a deep breath. For other people, it might be take a walk around the block. And it probably depends on how intense the emotion is as well. Do whatever you need to do to separate in that moment, to step back, fast forward to what you want the actual outcome to be, right? And then choose to make a choice, a decision, to say something, to do something that's aligned to the outcome, which most likely what your emotion was wanting you to do is take you in a different direction that would not have been aligned. And I can look back on a lot of my experiences in the moment that were part of those kind of bigger challenges where these things were showing up. I wasn't aware of that at the time. You were aware you're not aligned to who you really want to be, but you're not necessarily aware enough to be able to prevent you being emotionally hijacked. And that's the magic trigger: is how do you feel? Step back. What are your outcomes? What are you going to do that's aligned to your outcomes? And that's a really important, I think, trick for people to practice.
You've had a lot of success, and this is coming from a place of actualization. So being USA Eagles national rugby player, didn't just represent your country. You founded Play Rugby USA. You're awarded. I definitely want to talk about the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II for sure. But founder of Purpose Fused. Talk about those, or any one of those, in the context of how you are now leading in purpose, right? So that we can identify some of these ego that goes beyond just taking care of myself. It's only taking care of myself, right? and not about with others. How have those really shaped you and formed your philosophies to what you teach now?
Yeah, well, thank you for saying I've been successful. I'll caveat that a little bit, because I think by a lot of traditional measures of success, right? I'll be 50 in just over a week, and I got friends that I used to work with back in the banking days, right, who actually pretty much my age, and they can retire in the next few years. And by a lot of people's definition, that would be success, right? And I have a lot of time and respect for those folks, and so I don't have success in a lot of the traditional ways. I don't think. I'm not a very senior level in a big company. I haven't gone up the corporate ladder. I haven't made loads of money, so on and so forth. But what I do think I'm quite proud of, and certainly very driven by, is more kind of striving for this significance that reaches beyond success. Because my personal belief is, if you strive for significance, which is much more around meaning and impact, and elevating people along the way, and I've always just been super motivated about human performance, human development, just trying to leave people in a better place. Even from when I was a little kid at school, I can think of examples of that. And I think I feel very lucky to have that as a drive, and that any success I've had has come from reaching beyond it, right? Reaching beyond it, and not just trying to achieve success. And I think even in some of those obsessive moments I was talking about, I was focused on the success and not on the significance. I wasn't reaching beyond it. I was really about the identity and getting selected for this, and representing my country for that, and scoring X amount of points or whatever it might have been, which I didn't score very many. So I wouldn't have been successful in that measure either. But I have been very much focused on significance and leaving people in a better place, and I'll always continue to do that. That will never be a compromise. And so how I infuse that with other folks often means it's really three things, and it's very, very aligned to yours, John. The first one is that you kind of just reframe your perspective. So it is that stepping back, but it's not just stepping back in a moment. It's stepping back from life, like properly going up to 10,000 feet and looking at your whole life. And so many successful people, by successful definitions, very successful leaders, one of the things they rarely do is to take the foot off the gas, step back, and really get a big perspective, right? Tap into your purpose, because that helps reframe your perspective. From that, then you kind of redefine some of the possibilities, because you start to see things differently. If you see things differently, you can see different possibilities. Your goal setting will be different. So from those possibilities, then you can really start to hone in some different priorities that bring out your best self. So reframe your perspective, redefining your kind of possibilities and your priorities. And then the last piece of that would be, you've got to then really revitalize what I say, practices and people. Practices, what are the things you're doing on a daily basis that you are literally practicing to get better at in real life? And who are the people that you're looking to impact? And who are the people on your support team so to support you and hold you accountable? So that's a big part of my coaching. It's definitely a big part of my learnings from lots of the mistakes that I've made along the way. and from the impact that I've had. And certainly that would reflect a lot of the journey that thousands of those kids had at Play Rugby USA, as well as the leaders and teams that I work with now.
Yes. And, I think, yes, there's the parallel, because, I'm always the reckoning, revision, renewal. And kind of it's like an upward spiral for me in my framing, because once you get to the end of the renewal, it's not an end. It's like a plateau for the next level of growth, because there will be another reckoning moment that comes. So you got to be looking up, have it on a swivel to know what that is that's coming up, and try to have you happen to the reckoning instead of the reckoning happen to you. And that's, one of the things we say. When you look at this, right, and the purpose and what you just shared so eloquently is, have you seen like a through line between all the hats that you wear, from elite athletics to social entrepreneur to now leadership consultant, especially when the stakes are high in the kind of murky waters that are out there? Have you seen a through line that kind of keeps you going on purpose?
Yeah, 100%. And again, I probably wouldn't have seen that. In fact, I don't think I probably did see that until we were in COVID. So like loads of people would say, right? So even though I quit my kind of banking career after 9 years, not because I hated it, just because it really didn't energize me that much. I didn't see much impact that I could have at the time. Subsequently, I've seen some really amazing impact banks, and I'm talking to them now. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But back then, that just wasn't really a thing. So I went from there and I pursued my passion. So that was like rugby, education, kids, entrepreneurship. Like, how can I weave all these things together and make a difference for these kids? And selfishly, because I'm going to really enjoy it, and I think I'll be really good at it. So all of that time through to the commercial time of USA Rugby, which was fell off a bit of a cliff during COVID. That really, I've been following my passion. And so when I stepped back in during COVID and I was sort of trying to say, oh, what is the through line? The through line for me was always this sort of human potential, human development. Like when I really thought about, well, why did I set Play Rugby USA up? Yes, it was education and kids and entrepreneurship and all those things I was passionate about, and obviously the game itself. But actually beneath that was the fact that I just like helping people to get to a better place. And so why not take something to kids that are in really, really tough neighborhoods, communities, schools, and just use this as an opportunity to try to level the playing field. Just give them an opportunity that was handed to me on a plate when I was 8, that they will never be handed, because no one even knows how to spell the word rugby, let alone play it in New York City at this time. Let's give it to them and give them this opportunity. And so it's always been this human potential, human development, and that was the through line. And so for me, I think the way that plays in, and the way it plays in for people that I work with, is it's brilliant to be able to articulate your purpose, because if you can't articulate something, you can't be intentional about it. So I do this thing with people. Well, on a scale of 1 to 5, to what extent do you think you have a purpose? And nearly everyone's like 4 or 5. Okay, and how confident are you in articulating it? 2. Okay, right. So at least you've got one, and I agree, we all do. But let's work on actually discovering it, really understanding it, and articulating it. Once you understand that, it's such a great kind of umbrella, compass, barometer for how you show up every day. But it's also really, really broad. So to answer your question, the key for folks where there's so much going on and there's so much pressure and volatility and stress and uncertainty and all of these things is being grounded in your purpose, but making sure you create a plan on top of it. Because purpose in a vacuum, just like anything, right? And you talk about Inspiro, right? And how that's literally breathing life into people. Like, purpose can't live in a vacuum. It needs that oxygen. So what's the impact you're looking to have? What are the goals that you're looking to achieve that are aligned to your purpose? What are those principles you're going to activate? And what are you going to focus on a day-to-day basis that keeps you on track? So for me, I have Inspire, Connect, Advance, 3 words. That simplifies every day. So once you get to that point, you've got this big picture kind of plan. It enables you to see what's in front of you. And in rugby terms, we say, play what you see. Make best decisions, not just on what's in front of you, but in alignment to the impact you want to have, and bringing your best self kind of characteristics to that. And that really helps not people just manage pressure, it helps people kind of master pressure ultimately. Like you could almost get to the point where you're using pressure to fuel your performance, which then becomes, obviously in the business terms, a competitive advantage. As a human, it becomes great for longevity and stress management and just ultimately making a difference.
Do you think that, going back to purpose, when you do the 1 through 5, right? How many have a purpose? Do you think people have a purpose, or do you think they're articulating somebody else's purpose that they're trying to call into that moment?
First things first, I think a lot of people don't understand what purpose is. I think people often think purpose is a goal, purpose is an objective. People talk about why, because Simon Sinek's done amazing work kind of popularizing that, which is great, but purpose is more than why. Because the risk of asking why is, well, why am I doing this, right? Or why do I exist? Why am I doing this goes to objective or goes to goal. And when you tick that off, you're like, oh, well, I haven't got purpose now, so what's my next purpose? The purpose I'm talking about answers 3 questions. It is, what is it I'm doing when at my absolute best? And I don't mean the role. I mean, what are the things I'm doing behind the role? If I'm coaching, okay, I'm inspiring, I'm engaging, I'm supporting, I'm challenging, I'm connecting, those things, okay? So what am I doing on my very best? Secondly, how do I uniquely bring those things to life? And by uniquely, I mean authentically. So if I take the word inspire, which I know is something you're brilliant at, what's inspiration for me? How I inspire might be different to how you inspire. I would say how I inspire is through authenticity and through passion. Because if I really believe in something, I am authentic, I articulate in a way that really is passionate. And if I'm passionate about it, I can engage people. Now, if I can engage them, I've got an opportunity now to help them see a possibility and take a step forward. That's my way of inspiring, which is my definition that will be different to other people's. So I understand those 2 things, what I'm doing at my best, inspire, how I do that, and then what meaningful difference does that make? If I want to fast forward in my life and I want to articulate the impact I've had on other people, what does that look like? And those 3 questions, if you answer them, you'll have 3 sentences. If you boil all that down, you'll have a purpose statement. And as I said before, brilliant. Now you can be intentional about it. But what are your principles? What's your focus? What are your goals? What's your impact? That's going to enable you to bring your purpose to life.
And you've had some impact, and impact so profound, you're awarded the MBE, member of the Order of the British Empire. Talk about that. All of a sudden, now you're in Queen Elizabeth II. I
actually don't think I've picked this thing up since 10 years ago, 2015. No one's asked me about it, because everyone just thinks it's a typo. They just think I've got an MBA, you see. No, it's not a typo. Yeah,
it's a medal.
Yeah, I mean, got to dust that. It just sits up there. Yeah, I mean, talk about magic moments. We are going to talk about magic moments next week, John. That really was an absolute magic moment. And what made it most magic for me was, it wasn't even just, you get recognized when you're overseas, right? As a British person overseas, it gets recognized through the Foreign Office, which tends to be through, through representatives of the government in a particular city. And I happen to be in New York City. And I've been running this program in New York City. So obviously, yes, had loads of impact at that point, was very proud of it, had absolutely zero clue this was going on behind the scenes or as I've been getting recognized for it, because it's kind of a whole process that people apply on your behalf and write letters and all this sort of stuff. I had no idea. So when the British Consul General called me up in December of 2014 and sort of asked me if I would accept this award on behalf of the Queen of England, I literally thought the guy was pulling my leg, I'm walking down the street in New York. I'm like, well, yes, obviously. So anyway, but fast forward to the actual day, which was nearly 10 years ago. It was May 2015. What made it magic was I was at my parents'. Buckingham Palace, which is pretty magical in and of itself. I'd never been inside Buckingham Palace. The absolute precision military timing of the whole procedure. The fact my parents were just so proud, and it was just brilliant to be able to experience that with them. And there was just a few kind of little magic kind of little pieces to that. I got a conversation with now King Charles because he awarded me the medal. So I had sort of pretty much to the clockwork. It's just under a minute, but I did have a minute-long conversation. I'd met Harry, and I told him I'd met Harry, and I'd given Harry one of my rugby shirts and stuff, which I'm sure got patted down by security people. And he never did. And he never did respond to the note I'd written on the business card in the rugby shirt, by the way. But that was there we go. But we were going in the taxi to Buckingham Palace. And the taxi driver, London taxi drivers, really chatty, friendly people, right? So he's just like, "Oh, so what are you going to the palace for?" Because you can see we're all dressed up. And my dad said, "Oh, we've got an MBE ceremony." And he said, "Oh, brilliant." Oh, he said, "Congratulations, sir." He said to my dad. And my dad said, "Not me, him." and the guy turned around, he goes, "Wow, well done, that's brilliant." Well, what, and he wanted to know all about this charity I'd set up in the US and rugby and blah, blah, blah. And it's one of those things where so many other people are proud of you that you just kind of, you can't not take that energy in. And of course, what it represented to me was we built this team of really, really passionate, underpaid, talented people that were just purely involved in that organization to make an impact on kids. We had all these partners and schools and community organizations that, again, believed in the program because they wanted to elevate opportunities for kids. And it was all of that just kind of in a day of celebration, which you often don't get to do. So, thanks for asking. It's nice to kind of go back and think about it a little bit.
Those are so special and magical moments. And oftentimes, we hold them back. And there's sometimes those are the moments that keep us fueling forward when the days are tough. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're celebrating or elevating it, but hey, this did make a difference, and it can push us a little forward. So, like in the rigors, you transition from the physical rigor of the sport to emotional rigor of social impact. How do leaders, you have the award, but how do leaders develop the emotional endurance for the high stakes transitions that they're either leading or they're going through themselves? What was your response to that?
Yeah, it's definitely that. It's definitely that reframe, redefine, revitalize piece. But if you don't reframe things, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
And so I think when it comes to transition, which we all have transitions, little transitions, big transitions, there's change goings on all the time, right? And big challenges we have to overcome. You've had your fair share, obviously. And for me, as you would say, like the reckoning aspect of this is really understanding the reality of that was then, things are not going back there. I am where I am. And you have to accept your reality because all of the future has to be built on a foundation of truth or reality, right? Because anything else is just sort of, I always say, sort of like building a house on a sponge. So accepting your reality, but not accepting it to be nothing changes, accepting that this is where I am, it's where I'm meant to be, and I now have the opportunity to move things forward how I want to move them forward. And I think to the extent that you have done the self-awareness work to understand more about your principles and your purpose, and you're going to start seeing opportunities in front of you that you didn't see before because you were so immersed in that identity, that role, that whatever it might have been that you were doing, that you didn't even look for this other stuff. And now you're looking for it. If you understand how you're at your best and what it is you're doing, there's so many ways to bring that to life. And so you see all these possibilities. From that point on, it's like, okay, well, which ones of these do I want to test out? Who do I know? Who can help me with that? Who's done it before? Who do I connect with? What do I need to lean into to learn and grow? What new experiences might I want to try? And so, I've done work with all sorts of different transitions, people transitioning from being an athlete into a career, founders transitioning from running their business for years to looking to exit and not knowing what they're going to do next, just senior executives in the last chapter of their career, wanting to really make an impact and leave a legacy behind and get ready for retirement, which they quite frankly haven't got a clue about what they want to do. And the answer to all of it is in here. The answer to all of it is to know yourself. Don't stop thinking about the what's, all the things, all the roles, all the identities. Tap into yourself. What is it that lights you up? And what possibilities do you see ahead that you can lean into? And that really is a massive bridge to transitions. Not so much in the moment, right? But more just those, like taking that big picture and understanding how it fits together. It just gives you the clarity and confidence to go after those things that you otherwise probably wouldn't have seen.
Thank you. That's great. I'm going to ask one more question. I'm not going to go a series of things I want to do, but it's just because of the moment we're in right now. You have UK, US, you live both locations. You have great cultural differences, shaped your views and leadership. What can leaders do right now in the time we're in to help build unity across cultural lines?
Yeah, so we use a we world impact framework. So if leaders can do anything, it's to focus on we, which is who are the people you're surrounding yourself with most, the people that you have the most influence and potential impact over, and be really intentional about lifting those people up, leaving the we in a better place. Most impact for people happens through and with other people. And I just think that leaders are so often so busy through necessity of just corporate demands and shareholders and, you know, short-termism and all the other things, and the volatility and the AI and all the stuff we know, that they kind of get focused in so much on what's in front of them, hitting the next thing, making the next cut, doing the next deal. It's easy to lose sight of the fact that you have to do all of that with other people. And not just your leadership team, that the ripple effect beyond that to your stakeholders, way beyond shareholders to stakeholders. And when you get to that level, then you get to world. And so even if you're not in a pure impact business, there is some positive impact your business is making on the world. First of all, you're employing people. So are you doing the right by those people? Are you modeling the right things for those people? Are you providing them with the benefits and the opportunities and the leadership development and the coaching and the other things that enable them to just get better as people, not just as better as employees? So we and world, like live in that we and world space and think about, really, really think about impact, because you can live your legacy every day. Like we all leave a wake behind us, right? And it's either positive or negative. So why not make it negative and make it positive, and make it like a nice ripple out. As a leader, you have a massive platform to do that. And then you don't forget me. I don't mean me, I mean them. Don't forget yourself, like giving, supporting, elevating, doing the right thing to make an impact on the we in the world, you can only do if you take care of yourself. So are you modeling the right behaviors for yourself? Are you taking enough breaks? Are you getting your exercise in? Are you eating well enough? Are you getting enough sleep? Just really the fundamental stuff. And what are your quality relationships look like, and how much presence and time and engagement have you got with the people you love and care about most? All of those things add up, right? And so as a leader, alignment of me, we, world from an impact lens, if there's one thing that leaders were to do differently, it'd be to really be able to articulate their impact in those three areas and be intentional about what they do every day to just move it forward a little bit.
Love it. There's a book I'm reading right now, and it's hopefully it'll be out by the time this podcast comes out, by Jim Farrell, great friend of mine, and the book is called You and We, and it's a fascinating read on that. There's nothing that we do of ourselves. Everything that we have is made up of all the experiences that we have had. So there's down to the microscopic is there's nothing that we do, even in ourselves. So it's pretty good what you just said there, Mark. I frame personal growth in those three phases: the reckoning, revision, renewal. Reckoning is you realize life's not going back the way it used to be. Revision is casting a new vision. It could be multiple lanes, but you got to make a commitment to the vision. And then the renewal is when you actually are in that rebirth space, and you're no longer the expert. You got because you've made a commitment, and now you can't go back to the way it used to be. Of those three, which do you think that you're in right now?
Probably depends what sphere of life I'm looking at. Right. So from work, probably in that kind of renewal phase. So we got reckoning, revision, renewal.
Yeah.
I'm like revision, renewal. I've only been doing what I'm doing now in its current form for 4.5 years. No, 4.5 years. Yeah. So, it's still quite new. And so there's always a bit of like revisioning and testing things out kind of in that renewal space. But there was a big reckoning, like, because what I did before just fell off a cliff in COVID. Right. And so from a work perspective, I'd say that. From a home perspective, probably similar, right? As a dad, I'd say, right? I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, so not been doing that long either. And so you're kind of working it out as you do as parents on the fly. And so very much through reckoning, right? No, we've got 2 kids, right? Now I'm pretty aware of that, right? Good. So so their communities very much about renewal. I think that changed a lot. New York City, 20 years, community's different there. Stopped playing rugby. That was a huge part of my community. Stopped running that organization. So that was a huge part of my community. Moved here, didn't know anybody. Now community is the neighborhood. It's all these great, amazing relationships in the neighborhood. And we've set up a little rugby program for the town as well for little kiddies, like under 6 and under 8s. And that's just kicking off in another month. And it'll pull loads of people together. So that's very much renewal, and I'm really excited about that. So I think I really like the model, and I kind of like looking at it through different spheres of life. We go through different seasons for different parts of who we are in the different areas of our life.
Yeah, it's a very great observation, because it's not a singular choice, because I could be at a reckoning moment in one area of my life and a renewal in another area of my life.
Yeah.
And I could be in a revision in a total different area of my life. So it's always moving around, and we keep on moving. So this is now the rapid fire round, and I'm going to get you 3 questions or
a little bit.
That's right. Bring it closer to us. What's one quote or mantra that keeps you grounded during tough transitions?
Just because you said quote, the one thing I can never get out of my head is what my dad said to me when I was 12, which was kind of one of these pivotal moments that changed my entire trajectory, literally, in life, just from one sentence, which was, if you're going to lead on the field, you've got to lead off the field. And so then that meant leading on the rugby pitch, but now you've got to start actually putting some work in and doing your academic stuff. And of course, that goes through phases of your life now. So yes, I'm always going to be leading at work. I'm not playing rugby anymore. So on the field now is work, right? I'm leading, doing that. Off the fields at home, off the fields in the community, it's still got to be intentional about making impact in those spaces, not just getting lost in my work, which I absolutely love, which would have been the rugby equivalent back in the day. So yeah, if you're going to lead on the field, you've got to lead off the field.
Thank you. I used to say I was a great father, great dad, and husband, being home when I was on the road a lot, because I made the time to come home and be home. Pandemic forced us all to be home, and I said, so I actually did become one. During the pandemic, I became better.
For that season, check.
And I learned from that, and I was able to. Now my wife's a flight attendant with Southwest Airlines. We make home wherever Southwest Airlines lands. So I learned from that experience to actually be present in that. So what's one leadership failure that you are now grateful for?
Yeah, following the obsession, which would have been to the late stages of Play Rugby USA, where we'd had so much impact, and I was just so we've got to have more impact, and I was correlating impact to growth, and spread me too thin, spread my people too thin, spread the organization too thin, couple 2 or 3 moments of like struggling to make payroll and like just really being on the brink of not being around anymore. And having the realization of that, which I did in 2016, giving 3 years notice to my board, to knowing that we need a really intentional succession plan, and then being able to hire somebody that took over from me at the end of 2018, and that organization is still out there making an impact. In fact, I'm going back for their gala dinner in just over a month's time. First time I've been back for that since 2018. So I can't wait. And that is all from learning that I couldn't get out of my own way. Well-intentioned, trying to make an impact, but actually undermining our opportunity to make an impact by trying to make us do too much.
That's huge.
So I'm very intentional now about growth for my business. Is not just that type of growth. It needs to be very focused on making the impact where we can make the impact, not trying to impact everybody. So
good. That's so good. Thank you. And the final one is, what's your go-to activity when you need to reset your energy?
I wish it was still rugby. I miss it so much. I'll never fill that void. And I know that now, right? But there was many years, 10 years of my mind telling me to keep playing and my body keep playing and my body keep telling me to stop playing. And so that would have been the go-to. That was absolutely just complete and utter flow moment, release, the whole thing. Now, honestly, it's really just kind of working out, like exercising different ways. And I listen to podcasts or music when I do that. I do thinking when I do that. So that kind of thing. And I just enjoy reading and learning as well. I'd love to do more of that. And it's a little bit of a challenge with the bookends of the day with the 2-year-old and the 5-year-old. But reading, learning, and just sort of staying active and working out are my kind of go-tos now for clearing my head and just staying in shape.
Love it. All right. That's great. What a show, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Griffin, thank you so much for being on. How do people connect with you and find you?
Purposefused.com. So feel free to check that out. Connecting with Purposes, our podcast. John's going to be joining me on that next week. I can't wait for. So feel free to look that up, and then please, anyone wants to connect, just connect on LinkedIn. Mark Griffin, Purpose Fused.
I love it. I think do I have it right on the bottom there? Is it
just with the D?
With the D. Let me take that off there, guys. So I want to add the D on to the bottom, and at least if I do the edit on this
live editing. Purpose
with a D.
Some people get it wrong and say purpose fueled. I'm like, well, it is that as well. Yeah, I get it, and I always have to spell it out. I think it's just because back when we started doing rugby in the inner city, I always had to spell RUGBY. So I just like having a company name I have to spell to everybody.
There we go.
Look at that, brilliant.
On the fly, everybody. That's why we love it doing it here. Purposefuse.com. That's where you can find Mark Griffin. He's a coach. He is founder, and just a great conversation for us today. And so make sure that you are tuned in and checking him out, and make sure that you're sharing this podcast with your friends. If you found something value in it, please make a like or a comment and subscribe. And we will get a chance to have another guest on the show next week. And just keep going on, go forth and inspire your world. And
what a powerful conversation with Mark Griffin. I hope you're walking away with fresh insights and the courage to amputate whatever's no longer serving your higher purpose, whether it's fear, ego, or even a version of success that no longer fits. Mark reminded us today that purpose is not a tagline, it's a transformative force that connects people to something bigger than themselves. If you want to go deeper into Mark's work, check him out at purposefused.com and consider how you might lead from a more aligned place this week. Now, if today's episode inspired you, do me a favor. Remember to like, follow, and share this episode or the show with someone that's going to be helped in this conversation. And don't forget to sign up for your Elevate Life Executive Strategy session over on Beehiiv. That's johnregister.beehiiv.com. It's where we bring these conversations to life and help you apply them directly to your leadership. I'm John Register, and until next time, go forth, inspire your world. Bye for now.
And out we go.